edition of Kev's Defender project. Now in this episode we're going to be trying to fix the annoying vibration that I've got between about 30 and 40 miles an hour. From some research I've been doing, it looks like it's probably the universal joints in the prop shaft. Later on we'll look at how they work and what they do, but for now we're just going to take the prop shafts off, clean up a few other things up, and hopefully that'll fix the problem. And before we go any further, I'd just like to say thanks if you've been watching the previous episodes, and if you like this one or the previous ones, then please subscribe. The link is here. Thank you for your support, and let's just get on with it. So the first thing to do is remove the prop shafts. If you're finding it hard to get at the front bolts, you can actually take the passenger side floor out to get at them. Then we do the same at the transfer box end and at the rear diff. Then with a bit of help, prop shafts will come off. Another thing we need to do is drain the transfer box, because if we don't, the oil is going to come out through the flanges when we take those off.
Guys, sludge. Ugh.
So once the prop shafts are out of the way, we can work on getting the flanges off. Now I got lucky here, I should have really used a pry bar to hold that flange in place, but once the nylock nut's out, we can take the flange off itself. The handbrake's a little bit more involved. There's a couple of screws holding the handbrake drum on, then it needs a little bit of a wiggle and some persuasion to get it all the way off. Once that's done, we can take the nylock nut off, and then what you'll need to do is pull out the remains of a fibre washer, then you can pull the flange off. On the diffs, they are castellated nuts, which means there's a pin that goes through to stop it from undoing itself. Once that pin's been taken out, an impact wrench should make quick work of undoing the nut, although I couldn't get my front one undone. To clean up the flanges, I got an old paint tin and cleaned it out, put some degreaser in there, and then I'm just going to drop the flanges in, put the top on, give it a shake, and then leave them overnight. So we're back in the workshop, we've got the prop shafts off. Now before I did anything else, I have labelled them both, you can probably see this, RR for the rear of the rear one and FF for the front one. That's so that I can make sure they go back in the same direction they came out. I don't know if it makes any difference if the front and the rear, but you can see they are actually slightly different lengths, so that would obviously cause a problem. And also what we're going to need to do when we take them apart is make sure we can get these cups back on in the same position that they are, because I don't know if you can see, but these small weights have been stuck on. These prop shafts get balanced. Obviously they're quite heavy and they're spinning at very high speeds, so you don't want any weight imbalance, because otherwise that'll make car shake around. So what we need to do is take off these end cups, because the universal joints are inside. What we need to do is take out these circlips that hold the universal joints in. Then we need to push them out one way, push out the other way to take them apart, and then do the same with the other end, and then we'll replace them with the new ones. Now, as you can possibly see, this one's slightly cleaner. I've already done this one using another method, which you'll see here. I don't really like this method, but it was the best I could do at the time with the tools I had to hand. You can see you need 3 hands to keep everything in place, and you can't see how far you've pushed the joint through, so when you dismantle it to try and get the grips on it, the grips don't fit because you haven't pushed it through far enough, and then you need 3 hands again to tighten it up. You can see I used a vise for that. I don't really like it because it's not really what a vise is supposed to be used for. I've seen some other videos on YouTube where they use what's called a mechanical bearing puller. So what I'm thinking of doing is, excuse me, I'll just move this out of the way. So what I'm thinking of doing is trying to fit this in here like this, maybe a socket on the top, just to level out this pin, and then we'll tighten this up and see if we can get that bearing out. Sorry, not bearing, U-joint. So here I'm trying to use a bearing puller. It's not working. I've sped the video up to save you a lot of time of watching me fail. You can see even with a hammer and a lot of pulling, the thing's twisting. I can't keep it straight. I ended up just drifting it out with a hammer just so that I could get the grips on it to take the cap off. This is not a good method to try and use. So I couldn't bring myself to do any more of the universal joints with that method. So I bit the bullet and I bought myself a proper hydraulic press. And the way this works is there's a platform that you can adjust up and down with these pins, depending on how big the thing is that you want to put in it. We've got a platform here that's got a kind of a push rod sticking out, and then on top of that you've got a 12 ton, that's 12 tons of pushing power in this bottle jack. Basically what you do is you get your plates in here with the thing that you want to press, you jack it down until this is pushing on it, and you keep going, and that will give you your hydraulic motion. So I'm now going to do the rest of it with my press. I'm very happy with it. Now, as you can see here, it's much easier if you use the right tools for the job. With the hydraulic press, everything stays in line, so it's really easy to just pump on the bottle jack, and you can see there that the cap has just popped through. So I finally got that last universal joint off. Now, we all know that you have to take your car regularly to get serviced, and one of the reasons is things like this. So if you don't grease these things regularly like you're supposed to, well, first of all, you have cups that split like that, and yeah, when you don't grease them they go all brittle and horribly rusty inside you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run everything through some degreaser. I'm going to spray up the prop shaft, because as you can see it is pretty rusty and could do with some sprucing up. Then I'll show you how we put them back together. Now, as you can see, here are all the parts of the prop shaft that I've taken apart and cleaned up, given it all a respray. It's looking quite nice and tidy now. So we need to start thinking about putting the universal joints back in. Now, what we need to do is remember that we stamped the parts so that we know which way round they go back together, because you can see they've got weights on them to balance the whole thing. Now this one has got 3 dots on it, and this one has also got 3 dots, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this is the 3 dot one. So basically we're going to be putting these back together like so. There's 3 dots and 3 dots, so I made sure that I know which way around it goes back. So what we need to do here is very carefully take the cap off, both sides off very carefully. Over here on the press, we're going to gently fit the inside in like that. We will fit the caps over the top, so make sure we don't dislodge any of the needle bearings, which is why it's good that it comes pre-greased. And then once that's pushed in like that, what we'll do is we'll put the circlip back on so that it stays in place while we're putting the other end on. With the universal joints inserted, we can reassemble the prop shaft. First the collar, then the seal. Once those are in, we can reinsert the moving part into the sleeve, and then finally we can refill it with... Now, before we can refit the prop shafts, we need to put the flanges back on. So this is the front of the transfer box, just putting the flange back, followed by the washer and a large nylock nut. Once the nut's on, we can use a pry bar to hold the flange in place while we tighten it with the impact wrench. Moving to the rear, we refit the flange on the handbrake drum at the back of the transfer box, followed by a fibre washer, then the washer and the nylock nut. Again, we'll use a pry bar to hold the flange in place while we tighten the nut with the impact wrench. After that, we put the handbrake drum back on and give it a bit of persuasion, it goes into place. Then on the rear diff, we have a washer followed by a castellated nut. Then we refit the prop shaft and tighten it to the handbrake drum, and then again back at the rear diff, we fit the prop shaft and tighten everything down. So the last thing we've got to do is bolt this prop shaft back on and then fill the transfer box with oil again. Now the way we fill the transfer box is using this big syringe, because the filler hole's on the side. Basically the fill level is when it starts overflowing. There's no dipstick or anything. So basically we suck some oil out of the bottle here and squirt it into the transfer box, and then when it starts going all over the floor, I know I'm finished. So let's get started.
Truly fantastic as always, and Charles little.
There's a line from it that I probably still adore you with your hands around my neck, and I just think that encapsulates how much love can happen.
Now I'm happy to report that after putting everything back together and going for a test drive, that vibration is gone. So I'm a very happy bunny. Now if you want to see more like this, then please subscribe to my channel and you'll get notifications every time I bring out a new episode. And thanks for watching. See you again soon.